The words hung in the studio air like a prayer no one wanted to hear. Steve Harvey's smile disappeared so quickly, it was as if someone had flipped a switch, transforming his face from entertainer to something much more human, much more raw. The audience of 300 people fell into a silence so complete you could hear the air conditioning humming through the vents. Even the camera operators forgot to adjust their shots, transfixed by what they'd just witnessed. 14-year-old Mia Thompson stood at the Family Feud podium, her long brown hair falling around her shoulders, wearing a simple blue dress that her aunt had picked out for the show. But it wasn't her appearance that had stopped everything cold. It was her answer. 3 words that had just shattered the careful rhythm of America's favorite game show. My little brother. The question had seemed innocent enough. Steve had asked the Thompson family to name something you never stopped looking for. Expect typical responses like keys, remote controls, or missing socks. The kind of answers that would generate laughs and keep the energy high. Instead, Mia had delivered something that cut straight through the entertainment and landed in a place where television rarely dared to go. It had started as Wednesday's regular taping at the Steve Harvey Studios in Atlanta. The Thompson family from Portland, Oregon, was facing off against the Martinez family from El Paso, Texas. The setup was standard, the energy infectious, and Steve was working his magic with that combination of humor and heart that had made him beloved by millions. But there had been something different about the Thompson family. From the moment they walked onto the stage, they moved with a careful coordination, as if they were protecting something fragile at their center. Mia's Aunt Sarah kept one hand on the teenager's shoulder throughout the introductions. Her Uncle Tom's smile never quite reached his eyes, and Mia herself carried a composure that seemed too heavy for her 14 years. "And who do we have here?" Steve had asked during family introductions, his attention drawn to the young girl who stood with such remarkable poise at the end of the family lineup. "I'm Mia Thompson," she had replied, her voice clear but carrying an undertone that suggested she was used to being careful with her words. "I'm 14, and I'm here with my family." 14. That's a good age, Steve had said with his trademark warmth. "And what do you want to be when you grow up, Mia?" The question had caused a pause that lasted just a heartbeat too long. Mia had looked down at her hands, then back up at Steve, with eyes that held something most adults never had to carry. "I want to find people who are lost," she had said simply. The audience had responded with gentle applause, assuming she meant she wanted to be a detective or a search and rescue worker. Steve had smiled and moved on to the next family member, but something in Mia's tone had lodged itself in his mind, like a splinter. The game had progressed normally through the first 2 rounds. The Thompson family had played well, giving solid answers and maintaining their lead against the spirited Martinez family. Steve had been in his element, creating those moments of connection and laughter that made Family Feud more than just a game show. But it was clear that Mia was different from the typical teenage contestants. While other kids, her age, usually bounced with excitement or giggled nervously on camera, watched everything with an intensity that suggested she understood something about stakes that went beyond points on a scoreboard. During the 3rd round, when Steve had called on her directly, everything changed. The question was part of a survey about everyday frustrations, the kind of light topic that usually generated easy laughs. "Name something you never stop looking for," Steve had said, expecting responses about lost household items or misplaced personal belongings. Mia had stepped up to the buzzer with that same careful composure she'd maintained all day, but when she spoke, her voice carried a weight that immediately shifted the entire atmosphere of the studio. "My little brother." The scoreboard didn't light up. There was no cheerful ding of a correct answer. Instead, there was just silence, heavy and profound, as everyone in the studio processed what they'd just heard. Steve's expression changed completely. The entertainer's mask slipped away, revealing something much more vulnerable underneath. He walked slowly toward Mia, his usual confident stride replaced by the careful approach of someone who recognized they were entering sacred ground. "What did you say, sweetheart?" he asked, voice stripped of all performance. Mia looked up at him with eyes that were trying very hard not to cry. My little brother, Lucas, has been missing for 8 years. I never stopped looking for him." The studio was completely silent now. Steve Harvey, who had hosted thousands of hours of television, who had navigated every conceivable situation a game show could present, found himself in territory no script had ever prepared him for. Behind the scenes, a producer made a decision that would define the episode. Keep rolling. Don't cut to commercial. Some moments were too important to interrupt. How old was Lucas when he went missing? Steve asked, his voice gentler than anyone in the audience had ever heard it. He was 6, Mia replied, composure beginning to crack. I was 6 too. We're twins. We were at the park with our babysitter, and she turned around for just a minute to help another kid. And when she looked back, Lucas was gone. The audience was holding its collective breath. Several people in the front rows had tears in their eyes. The Martinez family, who moments before had been competitive opponents, were now watching with the same concern and heartbreak as everyone else in the studio. That means Lucas would be, Steve calculated quickly, his heart breaking as he did the math. 14 now, Mia finished. Same as me, but I still picture him as my 6-year-old little brother, the one who used to share his cookies with me and sleep in my bed when he had nightmares. Steve made a decision that defied every producer's expectation and every rule of television. He walked away from his podium, set his cards down on the floor, and gestured for Mia to step away from her family's side. Mia, he said, his voice carrying across the silent studio. Come here, sweetheart. She walked toward him slowly, and when she reached the center of the stage, Steve knelt down so they could be at eye level. It was a gesture that transformed the game show set into something more intimate, more human. Tell me about Lucas, he said simply. The floodgates opened. Mia began to speak, and 8 years of carefully controlled emotion poured out. He was my best friend, she said, tears now flowing freely down her face. We did everything together. We had our own language that nobody else understood. He was afraid of thunderstorms, so I would sing to him until they stopped, and I was afraid of the dark, so he would hold my hand until I fell asleep. Steve reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his pocket square, gently wiping the tears from Mia's face. What happened after he disappeared? My parents searched everywhere, Mia continued, her voice growing stronger as she spoke. The police, the FBI, volunteers, everybody looked. We moved 3 times because my parents thought maybe he would find his way to our old house. They spent everything they had on private investigators and reward money. And then, her voice broke again. And then what, baby girl? My parents died in a car accident 2 years ago. They were driving to follow up on a tip about Lucas. They never gave up hope. But the stress, the grief, it was killing them slowly. My Aunt Sarah says they died of broken hearts. The silence in the studio was deafening. Steve Harvey, the man who had built a career on quick wit and perfect timing, was completely speechless. He looked at this 14-year-old girl who had lost not just her twin brother, but her parents too, and yet was standing there with a strength that defied comprehension. So now it's just you looking for him? Steve asked. Me and my aunt and uncle. Mia nodded toward her family. But mostly me. I have a website where I post his age-progressed photos. I check missing children databases every day. I carry his picture everywhere I go. She reached into a small purse she'd been carrying and pulled out a worn photograph of 2 smiling 6-year-old children, clearly twins, with matching grins and bright eyes. Steve took the photograph with hands that trembled slightly. The picture showed Mia and Lucas at what looked like a birthday party. Chocolate cake smeared on their faces, pure joy radiating from their identical smiles. This is you two? That was taken the week before he disappeared, Mia said. It's the last picture we have of us together. Steve stared at the photograph for a long moment, then looked back at Mia. Sweetheart, I need you to know something. Your brother, wherever he is, he's lucky to have a sister who never gave up on him. But what if he doesn't remember me? Mia asked, voicing the fear that had haunted her for years. What if he's forgotten? were twins. What if he doesn't even know he has a sister who's been looking for him all this time? Steve's answer came without hesitation. Love doesn't forget. Mia. The bond between twins, between family. That's not something that just disappears. Lucas may not remember everything, but somewhere in his heart, he remembers you, and he's probably looking for you too. But Steve wasn't done. He stood up and addressed the entire studio, his voice carrying a gravity that transcended entertainment. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been hosting this show for years, and I've seen a lot of families, heard a lot of stories. But this young lady has just reminded me what Family Feud is really about. It's about the people we love, the people we can't imagine living without, the people we never stop searching for. He turned back to Mia. I want you to know that you're not searching alone anymore. I'm going to help you find Lucas. The audience erupted, not with game show applause, but with the kind of emotional response that comes from witnessing something authentic and profound. People were on their feet, crying openly, understanding that they had just seen television transformed into something much more meaningful. Steve reached into his jacket and pulled out his business card. This has my personal number on it, he told me. But more than that, I'm going to connect you with people who specialize in finding missing children. I'm going to make sure Lucas's story gets told to millions of people. Because maybe, just maybe, someone watching this show has seen him. Someone knows something. Someone can help bring you two back together. You would do that for me? Mia asked, her voice filled with a hope she hadn't dared to feel in years. I would do that for family, Steve replied. And that's what you are now, family. He began to remove his suit jacket, the same gesture that had become his signature way of showing someone they mattered. As he draped it around Mia's shoulders, he said, this jacket has been with me through every show, every moment that mattered to me on this stage. But right now, it belongs to you. Because when you find Lucas, and I believe you will, I want you to be wearing something that reminds you that you had a whole world of people believing in you. The Martinez family, who had been watching from their podium with tears in their eyes, abandoned their position and walked across the stage. They formed a circle around Mia, each family member offering words of support and encouragement. What had started as a competition between two families became something entirely different. A community united in hope. Steve made another unprecedented decision. He turned to the cameras and spoke directly to the millions of people watching. If you're watching this show right now, I need you to do something for me. I need you to look at this picture. He held up the photograph of Mia and Lucas. This is Lucas Thompson. He disappeared 8 years ago when he was 6 years old. He would be 14 now. He's someone's son, someone's student, someone's friend. If you have any information, any memory, anything at all that might help, please contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. But the most powerful moment came when Steve asked Mia one final question. If Lucas is watching this show right now, what would you want him to know? Mia looked directly in the camera, and when she spoke, her voice was clear and strong, carrying a message that had been waiting 8 years to be delivered. Lucas, if you're out there, I want you to know that I never stopped being your twin sister. I still sing the songs we used to sing together. I still save you half of my cookies, and I still check under your bed for monsters, just in case you come home, and you're still scared of them. I love you, and I'm going to find you. The studio erupted in the kind of applause that comes from the deepest place in the human heart. 300 people rose to their feet, many of them crying, all of them understanding that they had just witnessed something that transcended television and touched the very essence of what it means to love someone unconditionally. Steve wrapped his arms around Mia one more time. You're going to see him again, he whispered in her ear. I promise you that. The episode aired 6 weeks later and became not just the highest-rated Family Feud episode in history, but a catalyst for one of the largest missing child searches in recent memory. Lucas's photo was shared millions of times across social media. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children received hundreds of tips. News stations across the country picked up the story, and exactly 93 days after the episode aired. Mia Thompson received the phone call she had been waiting 8 years to get. Lucas had been found, living under a different name, with a family who claimed they had adopted him legally, but whose paperwork couldn't be verified. He had been less than 200 miles away from where he disappeared, hidden in plain sight for 8 years. The reunion took place in a courthouse in Portland, with Steve Harvey flying in personally to witness the moment when Mia and Lucas saw each other for the first time since they were 6 years old. Lucas, now 14 and taller than his twin sister, looked at Mia for a long moment before recognition dawned in his eyes. "Mia?" he said, his voice uncertain but hopeful. "I told you I'd find you," she replied. And then they were in each other's arms, two halves of a whole, finally reunited. Today, Mia and Lucas Thompson are 16 years old and living with their aunt and uncle in Portland. Lucas is undergoing therapy to help process his years away from his family, but the bond between the twins has proven unbreakable. They still sleep in the same room when Lucas has nightmares. Mia still saves him half of her cookies, and every morning they look at each other and remember that love really never stops looking. Steve Harvey still has that photograph of 6-year-old Mia and Lucas on his desk, and every year on the anniversary of their reunion, he receives the same text message from Mia. "Found him. Thank you for helping me. Never give up." Because that's what family does. That's what love looks like. And that's what happens when a 14-year-old girl teaches an entire world that some searches are too important to ever abandon.